My name is Sarah Whitney, and I'm 34 years old. Right now, my life looks quiet, stable, predictable in a way that used to scare me and now feels like oxygen. I work as a civil engineer for the county, drainage systems, construction reviews, making sure roads don't flood and bridges don't collapse. It's not glamorous, but it pays well, comes with solid benefits, and, most importantly, it doesn't lie to me. Numbers don't pretend. Blueprints don't gaslight you. If something is wrong, it shows. I own a 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy. I drive a used Tacoma that still runs like it's got something to prove. And on weekends, I disappear into my garage workshop and build furniture. Bookshelves, tables, shelves that actually line up because I measure obsessively. Wood doesn't care how you feel. You respect it, or it punishes you. This life? It's the result of everything I lost, and everything I refused to lose afterward. But this story doesn't start here. It starts in 2017, at a friend's backyard cookout, when I met the woman I thought would be my forever. Her name was Jason Parker. Yes, Jason. She was a dental hygienist working downtown. Soft smile, calm voice, the kind of person who made you feel seen when she looked at you. She laughed at my dumb engineering jokes, asked questions about my work, real ones, not polite nods while waiting for her turn to talk. I remember thinking, she's normal, thank God. That was my first mistake. We dated for about a year before I proposed. Nothing extravagant. I took her to an overlook outside the city where you can see the skyline melt into sunset. I'd carried the ring in my pocket for 2 weeks, waiting for a moment that felt right instead of staged. She cried when I asked. She said yes, and before the ring was fully on her finger, she was already angling her hand toward the light. 10 minutes later, it was on social media. Not after calling her parents. Not after we sat together and let it sink in. She posted it with a caption about forever and blessed, tagged the location, and replied to comments like it was a live event. I noticed it. I just didn't question it. People get excited, I told myself. This is normal. This is how things are now. But looking back, that moment wasn't about joy. It was about presentation. Jason loved planning, loved control disguised as enthusiasm. When we talked about the future, she already had spreadsheets, wedding vendors chosen before I'd even bought the ring, color palettes, guest lists, seating arrangements. She framed it as helpful. I just want things to be smooth, she'd say, smiling. And I let her run with it because honestly, it felt easier. I showed up. I agreed. I trusted. We got married in spring 2019. Small wedding, around 80 people, at one of those trendy barn venues with string lights and reclaimed wood signs. Her parents paid for most of it because they insisted. And I won't lie, it was beautiful. Jason looked incredible. Everyone was happy. People kept telling me how lucky I was. The ceremony lasted 20 minutes. Then came 4 hours of photos. 4. Jason adjusted my collar, smoothed my hair, told me where to stand, how to angle my shoulders, when to smile. Closer, she whispered, not like a lover, but like a director. At one point I joked, are we getting married or filming a commercial? She laughed brightly and said, I just want everything to look perfect. I thought she meant the wedding. I didn't realize she meant the marriage. Afterward, she showed me her Pinterest boards. 5-year plans, bigger house, maybe a cabin. Kids by 2022. She'd pull up listings during dinner and talk about nurseries like they already existed. And I believed her, because I believed us. What I didn't understand yet was that Jason didn't crave connection. She craved validation. And validation is a hunger that never stays fed. It started subtly, carefully staged photos of us, with captions about how in love we were. Then an hour of refreshing the post, watching the likes climb, or not. Her mood tied directly to the numbers. She'd get irritated if one of her friends' posts did better. She'd scroll during dinner, thumb flicking endlessly, double tapping without really looking. If I tried to talk, she'd say, and keep scrolling. When I said it bothered me, she smiled like I was being cute. Sarah, this is just modern life, she said. Don't be needy. That word stuck. So I tried not to be. The first year of marriage wasn't bad. It was fine. Chores, routines, learning how to live together. We went to Florida for our honeymoon and spent a week on the beach. Jason took hundreds of photos, but when the phone was down, she seemed genuinely happy. For a while, we came home and settled into routine. I worked regular hours. We cooked simple meals. Pasta, grilled chicken, nothing fancy. I spent evenings in the garage, teaching myself woodworking from YouTube and mistakes. I built her a bookshelf for her birthday, a coffee table for the living room, refinished chairs from estate sales. Jason loved the finished products. She posted them with captions like, "My wife is so handy." Her friends flooded the comments with heart emojis. But she never came out to watch me work, never asked questions, never cared about the process, just the result. She was always inside, phone in hand, reality shows playing in the background. Different interests, I told myself. Not everyone has to share hobbies. My parents didn't, and they stayed married for decades. I wanted that to be enough. Jason worked at a small dental office, 3 hygienists, 1 dentist owner. She'd come home complaining about patients who didn't floss or kids who screamed through cleanings. Normal stuff. Then, gradually, a new name entered the conversation. Kara said the funniest thing today. Kara brought donuts for everyone. Kara helped reorganize the supply closet. It didn't feel threatening. I'm not a jealous person. Jason talked about everyone at work. But something about the way she said that name, light, pleased, almost energized, made my stomach tighten just a little. I ignored it. Because we were married, because we had plans, because I believed trust meant silence when doubt crept in. I didn't know yet that doubt wasn't the enemy. Ignoring it was. By the end of 2021, the feeling I'd been pushing down had a shape, a weight. Jason started working late. That alone shouldn't have meant anything, except dental offices don't really do late nights. Patients don't suddenly need cleanings at 8 p.m., but she always had an explanation ready. Inventory, deep cleaning, paperwork that couldn't wait. She'd come home around 7:30 or 8, claiming she was exhausted, and then she'd sit on the couch, wide awake, smiling at her phone for hours. When I asked how her day was, she gave me vague summaries. Same stuff, busy. Then she'd change the subject or ask about mine in a way that felt rehearsed, like she was checking a box. Her phone never left her hand. Not on the counter, not on the coffee table, not face up anymore. Face down. Always face down. She took it into the bathroom, into the shower, slept with it under her pillow sometimes. And sometime in early December, she changed her passcode. She hadn't changed it once in the 3 years we'd been together. When I noticed, and I tried to sound casual, I said, "Hey, did you change your code?" Her reaction was immediate. Sharp. "Why are you paying attention to that?" The tone caught me off guard. Defensive, almost angry. "I just noticed," I said. "It's not a big deal." She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. "God, Sarah, you're being paranoid." That word again. Paranoid. It made me feel ridiculous for even noticing patterns that were stacking up right in front of me. December rolled into January, and suddenly Jason joined a gym. By itself, totally normal. New year, new goals. But the way she went about it felt different. She bought a whole new wardrobe of workout clothes, specific shoes, a fancy insulated water bottle, gym bag, meal prep containers. She started waking up at 6 a.m. to work out before work or going immediately after her shift ended. She started commenting on my food. "You know, you'd feel better if you ate cleaner. You should really cut back on carbs." She lost 15 pounds in 2 months and talked about it constantly. Every mirror became a checkpoint. Every compliment became fuel. I supported her, complimented her, told her she looked great. I didn't realize she wasn't doing it for herself. Valentine's Day 2022 landed on a Monday. I planned something simple but thoughtful. Reservations at the Italian place she loved. Jewelry I'd picked out weeks earlier. I took the afternoon off work, cleaned the house, lit candles. At 4 p.m., she texted me, "Emergency patient, running late, on Valentine's Day, at a dental office." I believed her. She came home at 9, said she was exhausted, kissed my cheek, and went straight to bed. The next morning, I found the jewelry box tucked into her nightstand drawer, unopened. She never even tried it on. That should have been the moment I stopped making excuses. Instead, I told myself she was stressed, busy, tired. By March, the distance between us felt physical, like a wall I kept walking into. She stopped initiating anything. No affection, no intimacy. If I reached for her, she claimed she was tired or not feeling well. We went from partners to roommates in the span of months. I hated the person I was becoming. Quiet, watchful, second-guessing every instinct. I prided myself on being rational, grounded. I didn't snoop. I didn't check her messages. I didn't follow her. But my gut wouldn't shut up. In April 2022, we went to a birthday dinner for one of her coworkers. The whole dental office was there, plus partners. That was the first time I met Kara. She was fine. Average height, Loud laugh, too much perfume, not someone I would have clocked twice on the street. But the way Jason looked at her, that's what did it. Jason leaned toward her, laughed harder than she needed to, found reasons to stand close, to touch her arm, to tilt her head when Kara spoke like every word mattered. Kara had a girlfriend there, a woman who'd been with her for years. She was kind, friendly. We ended up talking most of the night because Jason barely looked in my direction. At one point, Kara's girlfriend mentioned their dog, their apartment, future plans. And something inside me cracked open, because I suddenly understood. I drove home in silence. Jason chatted like nothing was wrong, asked if I'd had fun, commented on how nice everyone was. I nodded, said I was tired. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my chest tight, replaying everything I'd seen. I didn't want proof. I wanted to be wrong. But deep down, I already knew I wasn't. By June 2022, I couldn't live in the in-between anymore. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I took a sick day. I parked near her office around lunchtime and waited in my truck like a character in a bad movie, hands gripping the steering wheel, heart pounding. At noon, Jason walked out with Kara. They got into Kara's car and drove to a park 10 minutes away. I followed at a distance. They sat on a bench, too close, laughing, Kara's arm around Jason's shoulders. Then Kara kissed her. Not a quick peck, a kiss that said this wasn't new. Jason kissed her back. I felt strangely calm, like my body finally stopped fighting the truth. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream. I sat there and watched my marriage confirm what my instincts had been telling me for months. And in that moment, something else settled in. If Jason didn't know I knew, I had time. Time to protect myself. Time to plan. I stayed in that truck for almost 20 minutes after they left. Not crying, not shaking. Just staring straight ahead like my body hadn't caught up with what my eyes had already accepted. I thought I'd feel rage first, or humiliation, or the kind of grief that knocks the air out of your lungs. But what I felt instead was something colder and scarier. Clarity. Because once you see it, once denial finally lets go, everything rearranges itself. All the moments I'd excused, all the times I told myself I was overthinking, they snapped into place like a solved equation. This hadn't started recently. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice, made over and over again, while I cooked dinner and built furniture and trusted someone who was lying to my face. Part of me wanted to get out of the truck, to walk straight up to them, to ask Jason how long she'd been looking at me like I was the problem while she was sneaking around behind my back. But another part of me, the part that survives, knew better. Confrontation wouldn't fix anything. It would only warn her. So I drove home. I called out sick for the rest of the day and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, the house eerily quiet. I didn't Google how to catch your cheating spouse or signs your wife is unfaithful. I Googled divorce laws. I learned that my state was no fault, that I didn't need proof, but that proof could still matter. That preparation mattered more than emotion. I pulled up my bank accounts. The house was in my name. I'd bought it before we got married. My truck was paid off. My retirement accounts were mostly pre-marriage. We had one joint account for household expenses, but most of my money had always stayed separate. For the first time that day, I felt relief. At least I'd been smart about something. The next week, I met with a family law attorney named Patrick Hale, mid-50s, calm voice, no patience for drama. I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, took notes, and when I finished, he asked one question. Do you want to be done? Yes, I said immediately. Patrick nodded. Then we do this quietly, methodically. You don't tip her off until we're ready. He gave me a list. Separate finances, copy records, change passwords, document everything. Keep one form of communication, email, for legal reasons only. People get screwed in divorce because they act on emotion, he said. You're not going to be one of them. For the next month, I lived two lives. At work, I designed drainage systems and reviewed plans like nothing had changed. At home, I smiled. Ate dinner with Jason, watched TV, asked about her day. She didn't notice anything. That hurt more than the cheating. I opened a new bank account across town, redirected my paycheck, changed passwords, copied documents, deeds, insurance, statements, moved my birth certificate and passport to my office. I updated beneficiaries on everything. Jason sat across from me at dinner, texting Kara, smiling at her phone. Sometimes she'd look up and ask, "How was your day?" I'd answer, calmly, normally. And every time she did that, the gap between who I thought she was and who she actually was widened until it felt unbridgeable. On July 15th, 2022, Patrick filed the paperwork. Jason was served at work. She called me an hour later, sobbing, asking what was happening, saying we needed to talk. I told her to have her attorney contact mine. Then I hung up. I changed the locks that afternoon. The house was mine, legally, cleanly, unquestionably. That night she showed up. I watched through the window as she pounded on the door, crying, begging, promising to explain everything. I didn't open it. I didn't need explanations anymore. The email started that night. Apologies, excuses, threats, bargaining, accusations. I forwarded every single one to Patrick without responding. Through mutual friends, I learned Kara's girlfriend found out and kicked her out. Kara called the affair a fling and walked away. Jason had burned 2 lives for something that never intended to stay. The divorce dragged on for 6 months because Jason kept trying to claim things she wasn't entitled to. Patrick shut it all down. In the end, she walked away with her car and her personal belongings. I kept my house, my truck, my future. The divorce finalized in January 2023. That weekend, I rented a cabin in the mountains and sat by the fire alone. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free. Freedom didn't arrive all at once. It came in quiet moments I wasn't expecting. Standing alone in my kitchen at night without feeling watched, waking up without that low-grade anxiety buzzing under my skin, realizing I could breathe without bracing for someone else's mood. After the divorce finalized in January 2023, I gave myself exactly 1 month to fall apart. I didn't tell anyone that. I just felt it, like an internal deadline. I went back to work, did my job, answered emails, smiled when people asked how I was doing. At night, I sat on the floor of my living room with my back against the couch and stared at nothing. I replayed conversations, red flags, moments I wished I'd trusted myself sooner. Then February came, and I decided I was done bleeding in private. I threw myself into work first, took on a project no one else wanted, a complicated drainage redesign for a flood-prone area that had been mishandled for years. It meant longer hours, more responsibility, and less time alone with my thoughts. That spring, I got a raise. Not life-changing money, but enough to feel seen, enough to remind me that my life hadn't stalled just because my marriage had imploded. I joined a gym, not out of revenge, not to get hot, but because I needed something physical, something repetitive, something that asked nothing from me except showing up. 4 days a week, no excuses. I lost about 20 pounds over 6 months, but more importantly, I slept better, thought clearer, felt like my body was finally on my side again. I also joined a woodworking club that met twice a month at a community workshop downtown. A mix of people, men, women, retirees, engineers, artists. No one knew Jason. No one cared about my divorce. To them, I was just the woman who could explain why a joint failed and how to fix it. I built a dining table over 3 months. Solid oak, nothing flashy. When it was done, I invited people over for dinner. My parents, a couple of friends, 2 people from the club. We sat around that table eating takeout, laughing, talking about nothing important. And it hit me. This was real. No performance, no photos, no captions. Just people I actually wanted in my space. I repainted the living room the charcoal gray I'd always wanted, but Jason said was too dark. Replaced fixtures she hated. Built shelves in the garage so every tool had a place. My house finally felt like mine. The peace was addictive. I didn't start dating right away. I didn't need to prove anything. When I finally did around June 2023, it was casual. Apps, coffee, conversation. Some dates were fine, some were terrible. Some ended after 10 minutes. And I was okay with all of it. Then, in September, I went to a friend's wedding. That's where I met Ryan. He was a physical therapist, owned a small practice with 2 other therapists. Calm, grounded, the kind of man who listened without scanning the room for something better. We sat at the same table during the reception and talked for 3 hours about hiking trails, home projects, running a business, mistakes we'd made in our 30s. When I laughed, it wasn't nervous. When he asked questions, he actually waited for the answer. At the end of the night, I asked if he wanted to get coffee. He said yes, immediately, no games. We started dating and everything felt easy. Not exciting in a chaotic way, exciting in a safe way. Meanwhile, Jason was unraveling. I heard it through mutual friends. Job hopping, money problems, living with different people because she couldn't afford rent. I felt nothing. Not joy, not pity. Just distance. That changed in February 2024. When she somehow found my new email address. Her message was long, apologetic at first, then nostalgic, then desperate. She wanted closure. I deleted it. She sent another, then another, talking about mistakes, how we could still fix things, how she still loved me. I forwarded everything to Patrick and blocked the address. That's when the tone shifted. By April 2024, she'd seen photos of Ryan and me on a camping trip out west. Nothing flashy, just landscapes and smiles. She lost it. Emails flooded in accusing me of moving on too fast, of never loving her, of flaunting my happiness. She started showing up places: the grocery store, the coffee shop near my office, the gym, never approaching me, just making sure I saw her. Ryan noticed before I said anything. "Do you want to get a no-contact order?" he asked gently. I said if it continued, I would. It continued. By September 2024, the order was approved. Jason was legally required to leave me alone. Ryan proposed in October, at the same overlook where I'd once proposed to Jason. But this time there was no photographer, no post, no audience. Just us. Jason violated the order in November, using a fake profile to send one last message. I reported it. She was fined, warned. And that was it. I went back to my life. The funny thing about peace is how quickly it becomes non-negotiable once you've had it. After the no-contact order was approved, something inside me finally unclenched. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for the next shoe to drop. I wasn't scanning parking lots or checking email with my stomach tight. Ryan and I moved forward quietly, intentionally. No announcements, no performative happiness, just plans made and kept. By early 2025, we were living together in the house he'd recently bought closer to his practice, a place with a massive garage that he insisted would be perfect for my workshop. I sold my old house, put the profit into renovations, and watched something unfamiliar take shape. Stability that didn't ask me to perform for it. Life objectively was good. And that's when Jason tried one last time. She violated the no-contact order again. Another burner email, another paragraph-long monologue about fairness, about how it wasn't right that I had a stable job, a healthy relationship, a home, friends, while she was struggling. She wrote that I should feel guilty, that I should have fought harder, that watching me thrive made her feel like she'd lost everything. I forwarded it to Patrick, then to the police, blocked the address. And I didn't think about it again. Because here's the thing Jason never understood. My happiness didn't steal anything from her. She didn't lose her life because of one mistake. She lost it because of a series of deliberate choices: lying, sneaking, betraying, and then refusing to take responsibility when it all collapsed. She thought she could keep the security of our marriage and the thrill of an affair. She thought consequences were optional. Ryan and I got married quietly not long after. No spectacle, no Pinterest board, no performance. Just vows that meant something. Jason, from what I hear, is living with her parents, still unemployed, still telling anyone who'll listen how unfair it all is. Still watching my life like it owes her an apology. It doesn't, and neither do I. If there's one thing this whole experience taught me, it's this. You can lose a marriage, you can lose years, you can lose trust so completely you don't recognize yourself anymore, and still end up better than you started. Jason thought I'd fall apart without her. Turns out I finally became myself.